Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get a chance to get a little bit of a deeper peek into someone's perspective on movies. And I have Mike Hilty here from SiftPop, who now has been on Welcome to the Wasteland last week, and now a second round interview here on Lost in the Wasteland. Mike, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
And as always, I like to give my guests a chance to shamelessly plug whatever, so go ahead.
So you can find what I'm writing about on SiftPop.com and on Scirbe Magazine. I've got some articles coming up in the next couple of weeks, so check it out there. You can find me on Twitter at Hilty_24, and you can find me on Letterboxd, mhilty24, and also on Serialized, which is pretty much Letterboxd for TV shows.
Yeah. And this time around, have some questions about some watch lists, things to check out, some music, some trailers, and we're going to get to all of those things. And starting off, Mike, what's a previously released film that you have not seen yet that you're most excited to check out?
Previously released film that, Well, this is going to sound kind of lame, but just go with me. Just hear me out on this. Growing up as a child, I was a big video game fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was a Sega Genesis kid. So I have not checked out Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And as much as I've heard that it's good if you're a fan, and I was a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan, particularly the second and third ones. So I'm really looking forward to it just from a nostalgia point of view. But if I could think of anything that recently came out that I was just really excited to see, it would be that one.
I'm a big fan of Sonic, and I remember playing Sonic Adventures DX Director's Cut on my GameCube a lot. And
So good.
As I'm sitting here staring at it, because it's still sitting over there. But I can attest, as somebody who really enjoys Sonic, that movie was a blast.
Yeah.
And if they trimmed it down a bit from being almost a 2-hour movie with some fat that didn't really need to be there, it could have been a really great movie.
Yeah.
It lags a bit, but it's so much fun, and it just has so many great things that Sonic fans are going to really enjoy.
Right.
But to flip this question a bit, thinking what's coming soon, what's an upcoming film that you are most excited about?
Well, there's a bunch of different movies that I'm looking forward to, but there's one that there's a trailer for recently that I saw, and I was kind of blown away. I was like, this looks really cool. It's for Bullet Train that's coming out in July. I was, it's nice to kind of have something that's a little bit more on the original side as opposed to being an existing property. If it's based on anything, sorry, but I saw the trailer for that, and that's the first movie in a long time that I can remember. I was like, I really want to see that. That one looks actually pretty cool.
I'm a big fan of David Leitch and the guys who brought John Wick to life. And especially the stuff that he's been doing since he stopped working on John Wick has been pretty awesome. I really the action in Atomic Blonde is out of this world. And I really enjoy Deadpool 2 and Hobbs and Shaw a lot. So when I found out that he was doing this new movie, I'm like, okay, this is original, it's different. And then I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh my God, this looks like a blast. Brad Pitt just looks so perfect for this. I think what really got me is when it's just I don't even know you. The guy's chucking him over the counter.
Right.
And it has this great cast. It's an interesting cast. Bad Bunny's in this.
I know.
And
just coming out of nowhere for that one.
And Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. It just looks like it could be a lot of fun. So I don't blame you. I'm definitely excited for Bullet Train coming out only in theaters, because the trailer really wants to make sure that this is only in theaters.
I love when movie trailers do that. It's like, yeah, we get it. It's only in theaters. Thank you for letting me know that. For there are a fair amount of people who prefer for things to be streaming at home. So it's all good, but at the same time, I get it. This is the world that we live in now. You have to advertise that, yep, this is going to be in theaters only. So please just remember that when you're looking to go see this movie.
And Blumhouse is just sitting over here being like, in theaters, oh yeah, and on Peacock too.
Yeah.
It's like same day.
Right,
Because
exactly.
Universal, I mean, like NBC Universal is just like, we want people for Peacock.
Yeah.
Now, after talking about something that is original, an original story, I know a lot of people are not fan of all the influx of remakes that we have. But what is an actual film, Mike, that you would actually like to see remade?
So my hot take originally was I'm not a fan of remakes. There have been a handful of them that I thought were fine generally, but for the most part, I've thought a lot of remakes were unnecessary to some extent or another. But if I could pick one movie to be remade right now, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Exorcist, and I think that is going to be remade or sequel coming up in the next couple of years, because why not, right? It
It's
already had
hard
a
to tell if something's a remake or a legacy sequel or not until you see it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it even had a TV show treatment for a little while that it wasn't bad, but I like The Exorcist a lot. I like what it has to say, and I think just some modern tweaks here and there, just keeping up with non. You don't have to make it all CGI. You don't need to change it too terribly much, but I don't know. I would love to see someone get a crack at it and see if they could generate the same type of scares that I that when it originally came out, and then when it was re-released back in the early 2000s. I went to go see that in theaters, and I was surprised at how terrified I still was of that, even though the first time I saw it was on cable TV at the tender age of 9, and I was terrified.
there you go. Who would you like to see direct it? That's an interesting question. Are there any particular directors out there that you would like to see get a crack at it?
Well, I don't. So I guess a couple that come to mind to some extent or another, I would like maybe to see Jordan Peele get a crack at something like that. And if you kind of even swap it around, and it doesn't need to be a upper class white family or anything like that. Change it up, change it around, and see what you can do, and see what. Plus, Jordan Peele always has something to say in his movies, and that's something that I appreciate. So I would like something like that to even have some type of message, and I would love to see him get a crack at something like that.
I think that's an interesting choice, especially if they update it and, along with all the religious aspects of it, try to commentate on other things as well. And well, the first name that popped in my head, which is easy, is James Wan. Because, he's been making all the Conjuring movies, so there wouldn't be any Conjuring movies if it wasn't for The Exorcist. No. I could definitely see him doing it as a period piece. If you really wanted to straight remake it, I think James Wan has had enough experience doing the period horror films to be able to make that work. So, but I feel like that would be less fun than bringing something fresh and different to it. But it's an interesting choice. Yeah. Now, Mike, what's your fondest memory of going to the movies?
I'm going to give you two two examples. One,
Okay.
it's a fond memory in a good way, and fond memory maybe not so much in a good way. So one of my fondest theater going experiences, um, I remember when I went to go see the first Jurassic Park in theaters. So the first time I saw it in theaters, I was just blown away because I was just remember thinking, that's a legit dinosaur. I
Mm,
don't know how he did it, but that's a dinosaur. But the second time I saw it in a drive-through theater, and that was amazing because it kind of felt like when during some of the darker moments, like, oh, there's a dinosaur here right now. This is really cool. So, and it's something that don't get very many experiences nowadays to go to a drive-in theater anymore. So it was just
yeah.
a really cool and unique experience. So
There
I would say Jurassic Park for the more fond one.
there is a standing drive-in theater in southern New Jersey that I found during COVID, and it's been there for decades.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty cool experience getting to check that out. But what's your other one?
The other one, I'll never forget this because I was in Washington D.C. one summer when I was in college, and I went with a group of friends to go see Scream 4. And look, say what you will about the Scream franchise, but Scream 4 was fine generally. It had my attention pretty much throughout the whole movie, but you know that part at the end when they're about to reveal the big climax and they're about to reveal the killer, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and a baby starts crying. A baby, a freaking baby, and the booze that rained on this family because they brought a baby to Scream 4 and it was super late. I felt bad for them until I started booing myself because mob mentality, so it is what it is. But I could not believe, and I actually missed who the killer was. Somebody next to me had to tell me because everybody in the theater was just so focused on booing this family, unfortunately. And look, as a fellow parent myself, you know, I'm not gonna commentate or judge on anybody's parenting ability. Just, you know, hey, just do better, make better choices. That's all we're saying with this. That's why when I lived in California and all the theaters like in the Hollywood area, kids seats and infant seats were adult prices. It's like you know, if you're going to bring a kid to these movies, you're gonna have to pay for it. So make sure that if you bring kids to things like this, you got to make sure that you're willing to cough up the money and pay the price for it.
Interesting. I'm just remembering my experience seeing Dune and having two screaming babies during Dune. I'm like, at that point, I wasn't seeing very many films in theaters. Up to that point, I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
And then some teenager was literally screaming his head off at this family. I'm like, dude, you're not making this any better. Now you're even more of a distraction than these two babies are crying.
Well, and it's you'd think to some extent or another that the, there would not need to be some type of warning given by like an usher or things like that.
Mm.
The last two movies where I saw that they had to give a warning about is when I saw The Passion of the Christ and when I went to go see Pan's Labyrinth. Like they made it crystal clear when I went to go see Pan's Labyrinth, and usher came in and said, okay, I understand that a lot of people are here to see this because it seems like a fantasy movie, but this movie is actually really violent. So if you've got kids here, I would suggest that you get a refund and maybe go watch something else. So sure enough, there's a part in the movie that it just kind of flips really quick. It gets super violent and super gory. Yep, exactly that part. And there was a lot of crying after that, and I was like, oh boy, we even got a warning about this. Like,
That is the moment that you realize this movie is not what you think it is.
mhm.
And just like, oh, oh, this
This
movie's
is
rated R. You would think the parents would look at the rating, but not everybody does.
no, no, they definitely
Because
don't.
that's a hard R movie. There's a lot of gore in it. Now, Mike, what's a film that you feel like really exceeded your expectations when you saw it?
So this comparison gets tossed around a lot, but the two movies where I've had that happen, uh, when you see the trailer to when you see the finished product, and the gap could not be any bigger, was The Matrix and Everything Everywhere All at Once. When I saw the trailer for Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was actively just rolling my eyes. Like, no, no, this looks ridiculous. But then I heard that it got good word of mouth from
Mhm.
people that I trust. And I thought to myself, okay, I need to be a little bit more open-minded about this stuff. I, you know, I don't think I could ever subscribe to this zero frames pitch that, some of our fellow SiftPop writers, or just other critics espouse to. Good for them if they want to go in with no visuals in their head, no preconceived expectations. I don't think I could ever do that, if I'm just being perfectly honest.
Mhm.
But uh, but when I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, it just had everything that I could ever ask for in a movie. So that's the most recent one where I just was blown away at how much I loved it, despite the fact that when I saw the trailer, I just had zero interest.
Yeah, I generally don't watch trailers online unless it's like the first trailer for like a Marvel movie or something like that, where I'm like, I'm excited, I gotta watch this. But I know I actively avoided other trailers for Multiverse of Madness because I'm like, oh, they're gonna ruin stuff. I
Yeah.
definitely do not want to see this.
Mhm.
But like generally, I only watch trailers in the theater. So like most of the movies that I wind up watching, I have no idea. And honestly, a lot of the times I don't even know what the synopsis is. For some of these screeners that I get, I'm just like, well, I'm going in completely blind. We're going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting experience, but like, it's a hard sell, especially when you're paying your hard-earned money to not have any idea of what you're spending your money on.
Mhm.
It's like that's unrealistic. It's like people look at ads and reviews for all kinds of products. They're not most of the time they're not just going to go completely blind on spending money on something. But Everything Everywhere All at Once is like this is a revelation this year because like nobody expected this out of that, and just like bam, like I think most people that I know, it's their number one film of the year, and it's my number two at this point. And the only reason it's not my number one is how much I love the Batman. But
Mhm.
like it's an absolutely crazy movie that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome when you get a chance to see a film like that just blow up.
Mhm.
Now, Mike, I don't know because like this is a tricky question, but I do like to ask it because I'm not sure how much everybody else reads and stuff like that. But is there a particular written work that you would like to see turned into a film?
So I was an English major in college, so
There you go.
I've read my fair amount of interesting and weird stuff. I do have something, so I'll give you kind of two answers to
Okay.
this. So the first one is something that I have not seen anything for. I could be wrong. There could be something out there, but there's it's this book. It's called The Castle of Otranto. It's considered to be one of the first Gothic stories ever written, or Gothic novels. You see a lot of the influence that other novels afterwards have of it. So let's say your Dracula,
Mhm.
your Frankenstein, different things like that. So um, I would probably say that one because it's got a pretty interesting story, and I don't think I've seen anything like it before. Um, I guess another one that I don't think has ever been adapted, but I would be interested to see. There's a graphic novel out there. It's called it's called Mao or Mouse Mao. Yeah. So
The one getting banned places at the
yes,
moment.
yes. So I I love that story. I thought it was, it's really interesting and creative way to tell that story. So I would love to see something like that. If one other kind of cheat, because it has been adapted to film, but it wasn't adapted very well, and it didn't get the sequel that I was hoping. Because I'm a big fan of the His Dark Material stories. Um, the Golden Compass movie was a thing, and it was for a fan of the movie or of the book series. That movie was very disappointing because of the liberties it took. Yeah, it was not very good. The TV series is fine generally. It's okay. It's not great. But my favorite book in that series is the last one, which is the Amber Spyglass. And I don't. I think the TV series hasn't gotten to that point yet, and we
No.
haven't gotten a movie of that. So the Amber Spyglass is one of my all-time favorite movies. It is deemed in some places it's deemed this is kind of unfilmable, but I think at this point, with the way that technology and storytelling is going, I think it's really going to be really hard to find something that someone would say, you know what, I don't think that this is possible. Even with tweaks, whether you do it animation or whether you do it in a miniseries or something, I think everything's got a shot potentially. And the Amber Spyglass, with kind of the twists and turns that go into it, and just the way that the story shapes out, I I would love to see an Amber Spyglass movie, and a kind of His Dark Materials done right.
I'm interested to see how that third season goes, because like I'm aware of where that story goes, and it's interesting and bold, and I'm really interested to see how far HBO goes with it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to find out whenever they drop the next season. I'm guessing it might be in the fall if they were able to film it up to this point, but it is a pretty big scale kind of show. So now, speaking of trailers, what is your favorite trailer?
My favorite trailer. So I my favorite trailer of all time is that first time you see the Dark Knight trailer and you actually get to see Heath Ledger and to see what they've done with it. Um, I remember when they announced that casting. I was in the camp of people who thought, "Wow, this could be really good." Which you didn't hear a whole lot of people at that time saying, "No, no, 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 no. This guy isn't going to be good at it." But one of my favorite movies of all time is 10 Things I Hate About You. I love most of Heath Ledger's other work, so I thought he's got the acting gravitas to do that, and if he can just make this his own, we don't need a Jack Nicholson impression. We don't need somebody to put their own spin on it and to make it their own. And the first time I saw that trailer, I was blown away by how good of a job that he did. And then I think not long after that trailer came out, he passed away. And that just adds to the mystique of just the potential that this movie could have. So I I will never forget the first time I saw the trailer for The Dark Knight when Heath Ledger's Joker first comes out. Um, yeah, I will never forget the first time I saw that, and I don't think a movie trailer since then has even come close to what that produced.
Yeah, that was the Dark Knight, obviously, as a film and as a event, really changed things for people's perception on comic book movies. And I even remember riding high off of when the first Dark Knight Rises trailer released too. And they revealed Bane and everything. I'm just like, it's crazy. I know obviously the Dark Knight Rises is a lot more polarizing than the Dark Knight. I feel like most people are in the camp that they believe Dark Knight's one of the greatest comic book films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed the Oscars because of it. And that when they revealed Heath Ledger for the first time, that was something else.
Yeah.
Because like up to that point, it's like I just knew Jack Nicholson Joker and like Mark Hamill from like the animated series and stuff like that. And it was just like it was something completely different and pretty haunting and horrifying too at that. Now, shifting gears a little bit into some music. Now, Mike, what's your favorite use of an actual song in a movie?
This is a tough call because there's been a lot of. So let me ask you this for clarifying purposes: is this an existing song that was used effectively in a movie, or was this a song that was not a song that was like made for the movie?
Well, that's a fair point. It could be either. So like I don't want like a piece of score. We're gonna get to that in a second. So
Okay.
like if this is like an actual song that was made for the movie or like a popular song that was used in a movie, I think either one of them works.
Okay. So I've got this is really hard because there's a couple of them that I'm thinking about off the top of my head. So one of my favorite uses of song and subsequently dance to some extent or another is the that dance scene between Uma Thurman and John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. You know, just letting them go, doing their own thing, and you know, I thought the song was really cool, really catchy. That soundtrack is fantastic as well, and I really like that. We talked about this a little last week about Top Gun and how Top Gun has one of those
soundtrack
great soundtracks of all time. But give me Kenny Loggins any day of the week. For a while, the Highway to the Danger Zone was my alarm clock music, because every time I felt like I was going to have an adventure. It sounds ridiculous, but hey, I love that song. I host trivia on Wednesday nights at a bar, and that is a fan favorite. Anytime that you play that, you can never go wrong with 80s music in general, but 80s music specifically Kenny Loggins. You can't go wrong with.
It's like all the Archer fans out there. It's like, Lana, how did you get that right? Don't they know that you're in the danger zone?
Exactly.
That killed me when they actually got Kenny Loggins to be on Archer.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was so good. So good.
Episode.
So good. And they don't do movie soundtracks like that anymore. They really don't. And that's fine generally. That's, I feel like the movie soundtrack is I don't want to say it's a dying art, because it's not. There's still a lot of good movie soundtracks out there, but they just don't make them the same way that they do anymore. And that's too bad.
It's like outside of, like Awesome Mix, where anything like Jane, like there's specific directors out there that still see an art to it. Because like you can have something like Suicide Squad that literally Suicide Squad and not the Suicide Squad. That's like, how many popular songs can we throw just into this and people will recognize it, instead of picking things that work very well. And like James Gunn's one of them. Edgar Wright.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yep.
And Scorsese. Scorsese still does it. And like watching The Irishman again recently, and like he knows the time period he's going for, all those 50 songs in it and stuff like that. Like early 60s really works perfectly. And it is an art. And some films get that one song that really works well. There's not so many films like Top Gun where it's like I have it on vinyl. Like
Oh,
that soundtrack is insane from top to bottom. Just everything works and it fits the atmosphere perfectly. Like it feels like Top Gun. This feels like the 80s kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
Now, to talk about instead of popular songs, but the actual scores. So I've heard this question of like, hey, you're going to sit there, you're going to listen to a score. What's that score that you're going to listen to?
The Harry Potter score. It's just so good, and it's one of those recognizable scores. And I remember going to see the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and when they played that score when he gets back to Hogwarts, spoiler, sorry, but I kind of teared up a little bit because just there was just so much nostalgia for it. And it's weird because the nostalgia for it was around what, like 10, 12 years before that. So
Yeah.
the score hasn't even been around that long, but it's still one of those memorable scores. And it's evolved a lot as the series has gotten darker. So has the score. So there's a lot of different levels to it. So I pick your poison with all the Harry Potter movies, because a lot of the scores from all the movies have been fantastic. But that first score from that first movie in particular,
John Williams.
John Williams really knows how to crush it with the score. So, if there's one that I'm gonna listen to, it's gonna be that one.
I feel like what you're expressing is there's so much weight and baggage that comes along. Like that song plays, it takes you somewhere very specific. It takes you to Hogwarts. You're going to Hogwarts, and then you remember reading all the books. You remember watching all the movies and all the magic that happened there. And they still try to capture that too. And like they definitely tried to do that in Secrets of Dumbledore when they showed Hogwarts and played the score again. It's like, I know what you're doing here. I know exactly what you're doing here.
You're trying very hard to remind me that this is in the Harry Potter universe and to remember better times. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I see what you're doing. You're manipulating me. I get it.
But like that was such an interesting thing, because we didn't go to Hogwarts in Deathly Hallows Part 1.
No.
And then coming back again in the second part, coming home. And that was such a special moment in that 8th film. But John Williams really knows how to kill it.
If there's another one that I could kind of think of, and one that I do remember listening to a lot, which I think a lot of people did because it was a huge movie, but I do remember listening to the Titanic soundtrack a lot as a kid, because for a couple reasons. One, because I don't think we're ever going to get a movie like that possibly ever again. Just the run that it went on, just the scope of it. I guess James Cameron just kind of has an eye for stuff like that. But the score for that, with the bagpipes and everything like that, it's hauntingly beautiful, and it's something that I remember as a kid putting that, because I was in middle school around that time, putting that on in the background and reading, and just, and then when the VHS came out, wore that thing out mainly part 2, because that's when the good stuff actually happens with the sinking and everything like that. But the score was just really good from that one, and well deserved. Give it all the awards for that.
Well, and we won't get any more James Horner, and that's a sad thing. So, like, I think that makes it extra special. Is like we're not gonna get a score that sounds like that anymore. And he was such an extremely talented composer too. Now, my last question for you, Mike, is what's one thing that you would wish movies would stop doing?
So I tipped my cards a little bit with the remake stuff, but we'll go with something else. Marvel's done a really great thing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that's a once in a lifetime type of thing that Marvel has pulled off. I don't think you're going to find anything like that ever again. So studios, take notice. Stop it. Stop trying to make cinematic universes. One of the coolest parts about the MCU was that it kind of punches you at the end of Iron Man when it's like, okay, this is where this could be going. So it was kind of a surprise. So Dark Universe looking at you, announcing that this was going to be a thing, and trying to put the cart before the horse. It didn't work. The DC expanded universe, the DCEU or whatever they called it, they tried to jam all this stuff in, and Marvel did it with patience. They had kind of a vision-ish, like they had to duck and weave a little bit, kind of try to figure some stuff out, but they did it over the span of a lot of movies, and these studios, they're trying to create a cinematic universe instead of letting it happen organically, and I don't like it. Stop it, studios. Just focus on making a good movie first, maybe a good sequel, possibly give us a stinger, and go from there. Like when I saw the movie Split, when Split, that
exact thing.
So Split, that did that really well, when you don't see that coming at all. That was amazing. And then we're just going to conveniently sidestep what Glass was, because so much potential, and I don't want to say it's the biggest letdown I've ever had, but it's pretty high up there in terms of a letdown. But yes, studios, just focus on making one good movie first, tease something afterwards, and then try to expand it from there. I don't think the MC or like a cinematic universe is going to be done well. I don't know. That was lightning in a bottle. They did it. They did it right. I don't think it's ever going to happen again.
And that's the thing. It was a hope what it could be.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't all hits at the beginning either, because like Iron Man, which also was in the shadow of the Dark Knight, came out the same year, and like really surprised people. Incredible Hulk also came out that year, which was fine.
Yeah.
And Iron Man 2 was a clunky. It was a clunky movie. And they were lucky that Thor worked as well as it did, because Thor's weird. And they had the right director with Captain America, the First Avenger, and it being like the old-timey war film. And then the Avengers happened. And somehow that worked. Somehow it worked. And then it all came from there. And the fact that I feel like once phase 3 started, like hit, you're just like, this is something else.
Yeah.
And nothing's ever going to be like this. And, I think the Dark Universe is probably like the worst offender. That was just like what that picture they released with Benicio del Toro. I know not Benicio del Toro. It was Harvey by them was supposed to be in one of them. Johnny Depp was in it. And
Russell Crowe was in it.
who they at least had in a movie.
Yeah.
Which, hey, I think that's a good bit of casting because Russell Crowe's a great actor. Just the Mummy was, what the hell was that?
Yeah, that was not good at all. Yeah, that was.
Oh, I like honestly, I would have rather them had a cinematic universe based off of the Brendan Fraser Mummy.
Oh,
I would have loved to see that.
Those two movies are the guiltiest of guilty pleasures of mine. That third one is fine.
I feel like if they couldn't get Rachel Weisz back, I don't think they should have. I don't think they should have done it.
No, they shouldn't have. But
they did.
Capitalism, right?
Yeah, money. But I like 100% would not even consider that first one a guilty pleasure because that is an impressive swashbuckling adventure / horror movie that really works. Like The Mummy Returns definitely has a lot more like flaws to it, and like God, the CGI.
Oh, the CGI was atrocious. So bad. So bad.
No, it's so bad. But I love The Mummy, and that was from a different time. That and like The Mask of Zorro came out around the same time. Like they don't make movies like that anymore. Those were odes back to like Douglas Fairbanks swashbuckling films of the past, and except the 90s. But like they just don't make stuff like that anymore, and it's sad. And you don't get like good old fashioned kinds of like romping good adventure films like that so much. And that was why everybody made such a big deal about The Lost City, because like, oh my God, it's an old school kind of like a little bit, not quite. Everybody was just people were just excited to see Channing Tatum. But
that's fair.
100% studios need to stop this crap because it's not working. Not everything has to be like. I was so excited about the Batman because it was going to be Matt Reeves doing his own thing, and now that's getting its own like shared universe with like the Penguin series, and there's going to be probably a Catwoman series, and it's just like
so like kind of like another spin on that is my daughter, we do family movie night every Friday, and when we saw Scoob, or this most recent Scooby-Doo movie, you could see the breadcrumbs that they're laying with a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. And it's like, why are we doing this?
In theory, that would be fun, but in actuality, Scoob was not good.
No.
And not fun. And it's just like, that has to be fun. It just felt so like corporate and there's no heart to it. It's just like, stop this.
Well, because kind of like an offshoot of that was when if the cinematic universe isn't working, then the crossover event really started to pick up some traction. So because I remember when it was announced that 21 Jump Street would cross with Men in Black. It's like, okay, I get it.
Hated that idea.
Yes.
But over time, that has actually grown on, especially after like Men in Black International. I'm like, ugh. But you know who would be a lot of fun? Tatum and Jonah Hill.
Right.
And especially after, like, if it was Lord and Miller, I would trust them 100% to do that. But like, I don't trust anything Sony does. Nothing.
What, Morbius didn't solidify your trust in what Sony is doing with Spider-Man? That's interesting.
All I hope is that Marvel gets to keep Tom Holland and to be able to keep doing films in the MCU, because, like, God, please don't rip him away and put him in. Like, I don't want to see him in Venom.
No.
Like, no. And I don't want to see him fight Morbius. And, like, what the hell are they doing? Ugh, God. And it makes me so sad because I want to see Kraven as a villain in a Spider-Man movie. I don't want to see Kraven's origin story movie.
No, I don't, because I don't really care about any of that stuff. I just want to see him fight Spider-Man. So I don't understand what Sony's plan is or what Sony's doing. Look, Sony, keep doing your thing with Into the Spider-Verse. That was great. Keep doing that because you're doing that really
Lord
well.
Miller.
Yeah, exactly. In Lord and Miller, we trust. But yeah, just a lot of the live action stuff has just been very hit and miss, and lately it's been a lot of misses for them without the MCU's oversight. I guess
Lucasfilm screwed up not trusting Lord and Miller. We could have had a Han Solo movie with Lord and Miller, but we don't. I feel bad for Ron Howard because, like, everybody shit on him, and it's just like, dude came in and did a fine job with the mess that he got dropped in his lap.
It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault, and it's just it's weird that, because that is going to be not like an all-time what if, but like, I feel the same way about Lord and Miller's Han Solo movie that I do feel about Scott Derrickson's second Doctor Strange movie. I just, what if, I'm there, Disney, do a what if about stuff like that. Go ahead.
Have what if episodes of, like, directors coming in and doing the movies that, like, Patty Jenkins' Thor: The Dark World, Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. Those are all the what if episodes for the next season.
Exactly. I'll take that.
I would assume in the Multiverse of Madness would have been much darker.
Yeah.
Like, serious darker. That's the thing, because, like, if you're bringing Sam Raimi in, this is going to be campy and weird as hell, but it's still going to be scary. Mm-hmm. It's just different. And I feel like they probably thought that was much more palatable for, like, Marvel than, like,
whatever. Sinister. That was a movie that the first time I saw it, I genuinely walked away saying, "Oh, this is legit one of the scariest movies I've seen in a very long time." So good for you. And I want to see what vision that they had that he had in his head that Marvel was like, "Oh no, we can't do that."
I'm wondering if he didn't want to do the Multiverse of Madness.
Well, because wasn't it originally supposed to be something? Because I remember reading that
Nightmare.
It had, all this stuff about Nightmare and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, that could be cool. And
that was probably it. He probably didn't want to make, like, this big convoluted, like, multiverse film kind of thing. And you know what? You do what you have to do. I can't wait for Black Phone. That looks terrifying.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
But, Mike, how I wrap this up every show is I let my guests ask me a question. So what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Okay. I've got two for you then. So the first one, this is going to be a bit of a weird question, but just go with me.
Okay.
So I worked at two movie rental places. So I worked at a Hollywood Video and I worked at a Family Video. And one of the things that I loved doing so much was rearranging the shelves. So I'm very curious, how are your movies arranged behind you?
Alphabetical order by title.
Classic.
Yes, and it's always fun when I get new ones and they're A's.
Yeah, and the almost therapeutic shift that you have to go from like fitting something in, and you gotta shift them
Because
all.
there's a third one here.
Mhm.
It's just you can't see it on screen. So like there's three of these almost
Yeah.
completely filled, and that's always a fun thing.
So is it just okay? So is it movies and TV shows, or is it just movies?
Just movies.
Okay.
I don't really buy like there's time so like my collection has evolved over time. So like originally it was just movies, and then I found myself buying some TV shows. Like I used to have all the Bob's Burgers seasons up until like 8, and then
Yeah.
I stopped getting them. I had all of Archer. I did have Parks and Rec complete series at one point, and I also used to have tons of WWE pay-per-views and like special DVDs and stuff like that. So like it used to be like a mix of those things, and now it's mostly purely just movies.
Mhm.
And that's enough because I got plenty.
Got it.
Yes, they are indeed alphabetical order by title.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. I wanted to ask you that the first time around, but I did not think of that. So, second question I have for you is that we've gone through songs, we've gone through, literary works adapted to screen. Give me your either you could do 1 to 5 because I get it. Picking one sometimes is not easy, but give me 1 to 5 your favorite movie posters of all time.
Hmm. It's funny because I actually have to think about which ones are actual, like the actual posters or not. Because like I definitely have like a lot of the things in my office here are like not like official posters.
Official, yeah.
But like fun artwork and stuff like that. Um, I feel like I'm looking around. I love I'm just looking at some of the ones I have in my office. I love the original classic 2001 A Space Odyssey poster because it's just so very science fiction.
Yeah.
I have the original Mad Max poster right next to it, which like just looks like this absurd, like this big black mask and helmet and like the sawed-off shotgun and everything. I love the Godfather poster, like with the Godfather up in the corner and just the Don there. It's so classy and perfect. Um, it's hard for me to pick many modern ones because it's all the same BS. Like, let's have that triangle shape of like big person and smaller people.
Or let's jam as much as possible into all of these movie posters. You know what? Sometimes simple is better. You
Yep.
know?
And like I'm trying to think like some of the things that pop in my head is like, oh, that creepy Dark Knight poster with like the Joker and like the blood. Um, that that probably wouldn't be one of my favorites. So I'm trying to think of like I love the Interstellar poster of just like that shot with like the shades of purple and space and stuff like that. That's just a beautiful poster. And I love the Prisoners one with just like the maze on it.
Mhm.
And that's so creepy and eerie and has so much to unpack just looking at the poster for the movie. But like those are just some of the ones like I can think of all the top of my head. And like I don't even know if these are like official posters, but like I have Obey hanging on my wall because like, they live.
Yeah.
Is I love the Thing poster. Like the bright light shooting out of like the face and everything. I'm like, oh, that's a classic one. I love that. I'm thinking of like what I have in my office, and I have like just Max for Fury Road just standing there on like that ridge with his car, like looking out at just the wasteland.
Mhm.
But I guess those are some of my favorites that I could think of off the top of my head. See, I feel like the poster thing's something that like I have to actually spend more time with because that for some reason that's something I don't think about a whole lot.
Well, I mean, nowadays when you go to the movie theater, because like, do you remember going to the movie theater, you know, back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was just a row of all these movie posters, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
Now I go to a movie theater. I just went to the movies this past Saturday to go see The Bad Guys with my daughter.
Mhm.
And so we get to the movie theater, and outside there's only like 8 or so movie posters, and half of them are advertisements for things that are in the movie theater. So it's advertising the food, it's advertising the bar, it's advertising this, like we've got a Marcus Cinema by us, and it's advertising this thing, it's called The Wall, where they've got multiple screens up, and it's just all these different sporting events. It's like, what are we doing? What is going on? And then if you look at some of the posters that they decided to leave out there, given everything that's out right now, on one end they have Doctor Strange, and they have, I can't remember what the other one was on the other side, but on the side that my daughter and I were on, they had The Bad Guys and The Secrets of Dumbledore. That's, come on, what are we doing?
I remember, so there's a Cinemark that was near where I grew up. I used to go there a lot with my friend Kevin, and I used to go there a decent amount in college when I was home. And when you're walking out, like you walk into the Cinemark, and like they have an arcade and like the concessions, and you walk up a ramp. There's a ramp leaving, and that's where they have all the coming attraction posters. And I just remember loving walking down there and looking at all the posters that were there. It's like, oh, this is coming out. Like this has a poster. This has a release date. Because like I remember having to look up movie times in a newspaper and stuff like that, because like that's how it used to be. I feel like what spoiled a lot of this for me is honestly AMC app. Because like, what do I have to pay attention to a lot of things when I could just like, oh, and now I'm scrolling through and looking like, I hate that they use this one Doctor Strange poster, because like this is the worst one. There's so many cooler ones. Like the bad guy one, pretty standard. The Sonic one, standard, what you expect. I love the one where they actually do Sonic 2 poster with like Eggman and everything. That was great.
Well, it also looked like the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Sega Genesis case for it too. I thought that was really cool. And if I'm looking at some of these ones that are coming out soon, you know, I think the Top Gun Maverick one looks pretty classic. It looks pretty cool. This may be a little bit of bias because I've been like fully engulfed in Bob's Burger stuff, but the Bob's Burger one is super simple, and I'll take that. I don't know. All the rest of these, they seem pretty.
The like Jurassic World Dominion one, crap. Just same basic crap. The Men trailer and the poster looks creepy.
Yeah.
Like just Roy Keener as that one character. I think the Elvis one is classy and just like that's all you need. That's all you need to sell this movie. It's about Elvis.
Yeah.
The Black Phone one's creepy.
Yes, it is.
Which is that mask. I love these Thor Love and Thunder posters so far. Oh, perfect. The Nope.
Nope. Yeah, I was just about to say that. I'm looking through it. The Nope one looks really cool. I don't know. Just I think movie posters have gone the route similarly of the movie soundtrack. It is a lost art right now, because nowadays when it's just not as big of a priority anymore, unless like from a soundtrack side, like Disney is like cornering the market with, all these animated movies that, still churning out hits and everything like that. And now that they've partnered up with Lin-Manuel Miranda on some of these most recent soundtracks, it's easy to pump out some of these hits. But yeah, you just, they don't make them the same way. And movie posters, they've gone the other way too.
Those are some of the elements that Marvel fails at.
Yes.
Because like a lot of like most of those Marvel posters are just like the same crap, and then most of the scores are generic. That was one of the things I really enjoyed about Multiverse of Madness was Danny Elfman doing his thing. And the last thing I'm going to say, because we've been going on for a little while, is sitting down and watching Firestarter and just hearing that John Carpenter score being like so much better than everything else in this movie. I'm just like, this is 2022. They could have gave John Carpenter this check and he could have phoned this in. And he's just like that meme of the piano player on a beach with flaming piano, just like going nuts with it. I've been listening to the score since I watched the movie. I sat through the credits because I wanted to hear that score. It was that great. I'm just like, this is what we're missing.
That's good for you, man. Good for you.
Were you not a fan of the score?
No, I love the score. The movie, though, I did, as much as I love the score for it, I would not have sat through anything, the credits or anything like that. Like,
luckily, I was sitting at home watching a screener of it, so I'm just like, I just had it on the background. I'm like, well, I'm not going to turn this off yet. I'm just going to play the music in the background. But no, yeah, that movie was a dud.
Yeah, sure was.
But Mike, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Shane. Greatly appreciate it.
And I'm sure some point in the summer we'll be back for round 3.
Yes, I'm sure we will.
But thank you, all of you out there, for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.